Hey guys, Mark here. In today's video, I want to show you a couple of ways that you can increase the intensity of your workout or exercises without using weights. So I know a lot of people will be stuck at home and they might not have kettlebells, they might not have weights, they might not have bands, they might not have a whole host of equipment to use. So I want to show you and tell you a couple of ways that I have that I've written down over here because I will never remember all of them and I want to make sure I get them all to you. So the first one is to increase your reps or time. So let's just say you're down to 15 bodyweight squats. It's starting to get easy, so you can go to 20, you can go to 25. The only thing is that takes that little bit longer. Okay, so your first one is to increase your repetitions. The second one is to increase your time. So if you're doing time circuits and you're keeping an eye on the clock and you're doing 30 seconds of work with 10 seconds of rest, push to 40 seconds, then push to 50, then push to a minute. Again, that takes that little bit longer, but if you have time to spare, that is another fantastic option. The second one, I suppose the third one is to increase your sets. So if you're doing a circuit, you might add an extra round. If you're doing just straight sets of, we'll say 20 squats, and you're doing 2 sets, up it to 3 sets, up it to 4 sets, and see how that goes. Next one, if you are doing straight sets or circuits, another simple way to increase the intensity of an exercise without adding weight is to decrease your rest time. So if you're doing 30 on, 30 off, do 30 on, 15 off. Or if you're doing straight sets and you're doing 20 reps with 45 second rest, then drop the rest to 30, drop the rest to 15, and try to build up to doing, we'll say 50 or 60 reps of bodyweight squats with no rest at all. It's the only way that you can provide overload on the muscles that you want to work. Now we get into more demo type work. Next one is increasing your range of motion, and I have these two kind of steps or boxes here just to show you what I mean. So if your range of motion, don't trip up, if your range of motion for your squat is getting to about there where my backside is tapping off the step, you're using a kitchen chair, use something smaller. Drop right down and back up. I'll show you from the sides as you can see. So you can see how low I get here. I'll sit down, you can see my thighs are just off parallel, back stay straight, and I can stand back up. If I want to increase the intensity of that movement, I increase my range of motion, so I drop lower and come back up, and it's going to put a lot more work on the working muscles. So there you have increased range of motion. Now I'm using the squat as an example for all of these, but you can apply the same principles to any other exercise that you do. Next up is a slower tempo. So let's just say you're doing squats in your workouts and it's 1, 1, 1, 1. Slow your tempo, put more tension on the muscles, more time under tension. So you might drop down for 3 seconds into your squat. 1, 2, 3, back up for 1. 1, 2, 3, back up for 1. You can do a 5 count down. You can do an 8 count down, a 10 count down. There's so many different ways of doing it. So that's your slower tempo. Next up are nasty paused reps. So this is where you would pause at the bottom or the midpoint of the movement, right? So for the squat, it's obviously at the bottom. So your pause rep, you might drop down over 3 seconds, pause 1, 2, 3, and then come back up. Again, you could spend 3 minutes or 3 seconds at the bottom. You can spend 5 seconds at the bottom. 1, 2, 3 count down. 1, 2, 3 count at the bottom and come back up. And I can guarantee you that 20 reps at that over 20 reps of straight up and straight down is going to provide a hell of a lot more tension on your working muscles. Next up is 1.5 reps. So that's where you do 1 full rep, come back up halfway, drop down and come all the way back up. So again, I'm using the squat as your demo. So 1.5 reps. So drop into it, up halfway, back down and all the way back up. Drop down, up halfway, drop down and all the way back up. So if you combine a few of these elements where we'll say you do increased range of motion, so you're going lower, you drop down at a slower tempo, you pause at the bottom, then you do a half rep. So you might drop down for 3, 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, 2, 3, half rep, up, down, stand, and that's 1 rep. Do 10 of those and I guarantee you the leg muscles will be absolutely screaming at you. Next up, you can do single leg variations. So again, the squat movement is big knee bend, big hip bend. So if you want to change it, you can go into a split squat. So again, it's a squat movement. It's the same position at the knee and at the hip, but because you're putting the emphasis on one leg, it can increase the intensity big time on the legs there. Now, you don't have to do split squats as such. You can do forward lunges where you step forward and push back. You can do reverse lunges where you step back and stand forward. And you can do rear leg elevated then to add an element of balance to it. So I'll place my foot up on this box here, get my stance set up, and I can drop down and drive back up. So you have that increased range of motion as well. Another way of increasing range of motion on something like that is to place your front foot on an elevated surface, drop right down and back up, drop right down and back up. Next up, so that was, we've covered 1.5 reps, single leg variations, we've covered rear leg elevated split squats, which are foot on a bench or a step, and even the bottom step or the second step on your stairs will work just the job, or a kitchen chair. Next up, you can do combination movements, so a squat to a lunge. So I do a reverse lunge and make sure I have enough space behind me. So you can drop into a squat, reverse lunge on the left leg, squat, reverse lunge on the right. So squat, lunge, squat, lunge, and combine those movements. You could do a squat and press. Now again, I'm saying it's without weight, but if you had weights, you could do a squat and a press, and combination movements like that. Next up, and this is the last one, is you can do heels elevated and change the angles of your movement. Now, do I have anything handy here to put my heels on? I thought I'd have an extra couple of weights, so I can use these. Take these bad boys out of here. If you elevate your heels on something, you can use a step, or you can use something like I'm using here. You can place a lot more emphasis on the muscles in the quads, and you can get that a little bit lower into that squat by having the heels slightly elevated by a couple of inches. Obviously you want something maybe a little bit more sturdy than your kids' play mats. Change the angles in another way. You could do something like a curtsy lunge. So I'll start just over here, where you're stepping across and back. So you step across, drop to there, and come back up. So you're hitting the same muscles as you would balance in a squat, but because you're changing the angles, you can work the muscles a hell of a lot harder. And the last one that I have down there is you could add a rotation. So again, if you're going into a reverse lunge, you can turn across the body, step back, turn across the body, step forward, and again it just changes the angles, adds a balance element to it, and it gives you an excellent way to provide overload on the muscles that you want to work without adding weight. So there you have it. We've done, you can increase your reps, or the amount of time you spend doing the exercise. You can increase the sets, decrease the rest in between sets or in between rounds if you're doing circuits. You can increase the range of motion of a certain movement. You can go with a slower tempo. So instead of 1 down, 1 up, 3 down, 1 second pause, and then come back up. You can do paused reps where you stop in the middle for anywhere between 3 and 6 seconds. Tends to work really, really well. You can do 1.5 reps where you drop to the bottom, come up halfway, drop down all the way, and then come all the way back up. You can do single leg variations. You can do rear leg elevated or single leg variations. I've done rear leg elevated, but you can do single leg squats where you drop down like that. I do them on the box. Safer, where you sit right back down, touch the bump, and then drive back up. And again, a kitchen chair can be used for the same thing. That single leg, rear leg elevated we did as well, where the back leg was up here. We drop down and drive back up. We have done combination movements, so a squat into a lunge, into a squat, into an opposite lunge. And then you can change angles. So you can do something like a heel elevated squat, which will really emphasize the quads. You could do a curtsy lunge where you're crossing over behind the body. You can add a rotation. So they are fantastic ways to increase the intensity of your home workout without touching weights. Thanks for watching. If you did like this video, I'd love it if you could share it to your social media channels. Thank you very much. If you want more info on what I can offer in terms of my services or read more of my blogs, visit markhofieldcoaching.ie.